As a rideshare driver, I don't expect a tip on every single ride. Let's be honest, that's unrealistic. However, there are two key situations where I do anticipate a tip. Hey, what's up, Rideshare World? Chuck Driver here. The first is when I go above and beyond to satisfy a customer's need. This could be driving faster than I typically would to get them to a very important appointment.
I don't know how to put this, but kind of a big deal.
Playing their favorite tunes so they can jam along after a long day at work, or keeping the vibe going after a long night at the bars. And also being kind and courteous and just having a great conversation with the passenger. And second is when a customer explicitly promises a tip for an extra favor, such as making an additional stop at a convenience store or liquor store that wasn't initially in the itinerary of the trip. But the frustrating part is that you're not guaranteed to receive that tip unless it's in cash.
Dollar bills, y'all.
If someone tells you that they'll tip you in the app, it's like a red flag waving in the breeze. More often than not, that promised tip never materializes. Most of the time, I just think that they honestly forgot about the tip. They got out of my car and they moved on with their life. Or maybe Uber stole the tip, but I'm sure that's unlikely. But whatever it is, when a customer does not follow through on the tip, it just feels like an empty promise that was never delivered upon. And I'm going to share two recent scenarios where this has happened to me recently, and I want your thoughts on it and how you would have dealt with it. The first situation where a tip never materialized after a customer promised it to me, it was to an apartment complex. It was a solo passenger. The guy was in his early 30s, and as he was walking to my vehicle, he looked a little hungover, like he just got done partying all night. However, once he got into my vehicle and we exchanged greetings, he quickly opened up and said that he was partly hungover, but the other, he was just up all night arguing with his girlfriend. And after 3 long years of ups and downs in this relationship, he said they just decided to move on and end it the night before. I did ask a few open-ended questions, which got him to open up and talk, and I just listened. And he started sharing some really deep personal things that had happened in that relationship. And I kind of shared a few things that happened in my relationships over the years, and also just gave him some pointers. And about halfway through the trip, he asked if he could make a stop at a convenience store just to run in and get some hangover medicine. He said after a night of drinking and arguing with his girlfriend, he was in need of some Gatorade and some Advil. I'll make sure I tip you in the app, he promised, as I agreed to the quick detour. He even offered to grab me a coffee or water, but I politely declined. However, looking back, I honestly wish that I had taken him up on that, especially since I never received that promised tip. He was very quick in the convenience store, and when he got back in the vehicle, he did thank me, and we resumed our conversation like nothing happened. And even when we rolled up to his house at the drop-off point, he lingered in the car for a few extra minutes, just kind of sharing some more stuff. We went back and forth. It's just a shame that I didn't get the tip, and I'm hoping that he just forgot. He went inside, drank his Gatorade, took his Advil, and just passed out after a night of arguing. I really hope the best for him. But what do you think here, and what would you have done different? And my second recent trip where a promised tip never materialized was a family that I picked up at a seafood restaurant and was taking them to a house party. It was a husband and wife and 2 preteen daughters, and as soon as the mother got in the front seat, she asked if we could make a quick stop at a liquor store that is on the way.
I don't know if I have to do this through the app. There's a shopping center like right up here before you make the left to drop us off. Is there any way we could stop at the wine store up there?
Yeah, you're only going to be a few minutes, right?
Yeah, 60 seconds.
Gotcha, you don't have to
Okay, we'll add it to tip if you don't mind. Okay, thank you.
Now, I've heard that line before.
We'll add it to tip.
It isn't my first rodeo. I'm not a dummy. But reading the room and seeing the restaurant that I picked them up at and the area that I'm going to be dropping them off at, I figured that these were wealthy passengers, and I was hoping that going above and beyond to serve them would lead to a decent tip. And believe it or not, she held her word on one of the 2 things. She was very quick going in and out of that store. She knew exactly what she wanted, where it was, and she was out within about 2 minutes.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Hands look full, so.
Busy in there. Sorry about that.
And when she got back in the car, we immediately hit the road. And the husband was in the back with his 2 daughters, and they started jamming out. He started air drumming and air guitar with his pre-teenage daughters back there who just felt embarrassed by him.
There you go. Slap at that bass, man. I slap at that bass. Please don't do that.
And at that point, the wife turned to the husband in the back seat and told him to make sure that he leaves me a good tip. I thought I had sealed the tip. I thought I was getting it no matter what, probably a $10 to $15 tip, if not more. And when we arrived at the destination, the wife turned to me and thanked me again for stopping at the liquor store and turned around and reminded her husband to leave me a tip. Yep, he replied, I'll tip you in the app. Enjoy your night. That was the last thing he said as he shut the door. And guess what? No tip ever came through. Was the husband being cheap? Maybe. Did he simply forget? Most likely. But nonetheless, even if he forgot, and I can move on for it, it still stings every single time a passenger fails to tip after promising. It's just a frustration that comes along with the job, but we keep driving, hoping that the next rider that promises that they will tip will come through the app with a big one. So, what are your thoughts? Share in the comments below your frustrations on when a tip doesn't come through as promised. Also, let me know how you would have handled these two situations. And check out these next videos right here from the Rideshare Guy, and I hope to see you in that video.